let's rock and roll.
And it's in there.
So how are we pivoting around a crisis? A crisis is going to happen, not potentially, it's going to happen.
Yeah. So we're talking just generally there about the downturn, correction in the market. Definitely come in, lots of signs there. So as a business owner, are you burying your head in the sand at the minute? Are you not looking up and seeing what's coming up in the future and what you're doing to mitigate all the risks?
I suppose as a business owner, it becomes very difficult, loaded question, because I'm so busy executing day to day, fighting fires, dealing with stuff, that when I leave the house, I'm too tired to think about my business strategically and to think about everything that can go wrong, because I think about it all the time. Because whether you believe it or not, it sits in your head. You do scenario playing, scenario role modeling. But a downturn, you're right, Michael, is coming. What are you doing about it?
Well, this is where you have to look at a whole host of factors. Your people, your retention of people, your sales, your processes. Do you want to become the best version of that business that you've got out there? So whether you're a hairdresser, whether you're a dog walker, all these things, what will make you stand out better than your competitors? Because what we've noticed in the downturn, I mean, you said previously you went through 2 crashes already and you're only 25.
Can you believe it? It's putting the years on me.
But what is going to make you stand out? And this is why you have to be looking at your business constantly. And when fear comes and worry comes, you have to either just accept it and then find a way around it and pivot. And as we say quite a lot, pivot your business, because complacency kills your business as well.
I think you need to start looking at like what are the main risks, like stress test your business. If you've lost 20% revenue.
Well, that's going to be cash flow.
Yeah. If your costs are rising, which everything is at the moment, customer payments are slowing, the people are starting to be slow to pay, so cash flow's struggling again. Losing your largest client, it's always one, they're obviously cutting costs. So who are your biggest clients? And are your eggs in a basket with someone where if they pull it?
Well,
start to look at
an easy
guys.
one here. You take your top 3 clients that you've got, all of us, our top 3 clients, replicate them. Find another 3 clients exactly like them. If 2 of those clients are going under and you think it's just the marketplace, what it's like, then you have to start thinking, right, what businesses out there do I have synergy with? I can build up collaborations with. What ones can I lean on? Because collaborations are key to most businesses. You just have to go and seek and find those businesses, and you might just well embrace it and get through this. Because if you can endure this economic crisis that will last for 3 to 12 months, all you're going to do is to see what substance you're made of. Because once it gets past, it goes back up again. And the strongest survive. It's not, again, as you said, burying your head in the sand or just standing there. You need to react.
I suppose it's about making, very few guys make a list. Very few guys have got a risk register. And a risk register is just another word for a risk. Okay. And you start with ground zero. What if I had to lose this employee that's been with me for 20 years? Start with, what if I lost 100% of my business? And you look at 2 things. You look at, firstly, how likely is it to happen? And secondly, the impact. You want to focus on the high impact items. And then what would you do? It gives you a platform to start thinking about your business, because you know the risks already. I can guarantee you there's nothing anybody will tell you that you don't already know. But until you write it down, it's not real. Once you write it down and go, hell, if I lost 100% of my business today, what would I do? How likely is it? It's probably not really likely. What's the impact on my business? And it's all those things we're talking about is review your customer base, review your supplier base. Are you buying all your products from one supplier? Are you getting the best possible price? Are you looking at your expenditure? Do you really need 17 Apple storage subscriptions? Those are the basics that you need to do. So very often guys focus on 1 or 2 areas. You need to look at everything in the same way. Is you start with expenses, but you can only cut expenses so far before you become ineffective.
You need to take a little bit of pain for the gain. Stripping back things that you like to have, but you don't need to have them. Get that ego and that bravado out of your business and get out of your head. Just run it on the basics that you need. Because when you first started the business, You may have not had a lot of money, but then what happens is you get to a point where you get to spend a little bit of money because you've been maybe working it for 3 years, 5 years. You need to go strip it all the way back down and go back to the basics again. Back to, when you first started. Every penny's a prisoner, but it should always be a prisoner.
I think it's just going back to basics. What did you do really, really well in the beginning when you started the business? Because when you go through a correction like this, it is back to startup phase. What did you do really, really well? But it is taking the lessons that you've learned and implementing it to make you better. And then you need to look at things like, so cost and expenses are obviously one. People are another one. You need to look at your sales, but you need to look at how you make your money. Where's your money coming from? What does your customer journey look like? All the little things. Now, I don't know if I've told you the story before. There was a restaurant that was the 19th best. And what they did is they went to the best restaurant in town. Okay. And they looked at this best restaurant in town and they go, what are these guys doing well? And they go, well, the guys come out and they pair the wine with you. And when they were starting to talk about it, we don't want to replicate what they're doing well. What were they not doing? And two of the guys said, well, we only really, really like beer. And a third guy goes, you know what? I'm really big into coffee. So you know what they did? Kept their offering the same, but they had somebody who paired beers instead of wines. And then when you have desserts, different types of coffee. And all of a sudden, they're number 3 or number 4. Okay, so it's not about replicating what other people are doing well. It's about understanding where you could be better. And that takes courage. I mean, 2025 has been a difficult year. 2026, first half of it, it's going to be just as difficult. Make no mistake about it. But what are you as a business owner doing? You're burying your head in the sand, or you're lifting it above it and saying, these are the risks. And there's always 2 types of risks, okay? There's the risk we can control, and there's risk we can't control. So risk we can't control, the budget. Whatever Rachel Reeves says, she's going to say. But just to tread water, to wait for her to make an announcement, serves nobody no purpose. You need to do something. What are you doing about your business? Are you going to stay stuck in the day-to-day? And it's easy to say, stuck in the day-to-day. Or you're going to dedicate the first hour or the last hour of your day. And that's how you start. You don't start with everything. You start first hour or last hour of your day. And you say, these are the risks. And day one, you just list them all down. That's all you do for that hour. Just list them all down.
You should maybe, Mike, here's a question for you. Do you write a list out every day?
Like I've got lists for my lists. Like I do, like I'm not somebody that's very good. Like if we have a conversation and you say something to me, it doesn't really sit. So writing it down for me is what locks it in much better for me. So I tend to have lists anyway. But I'll do, like once a year, I'll look at my 3-year forecast. So I'll always be looking at where we're going. And it is just some of it guesswork, but obviously the longer in business you are, the more accurate you can be with that. And it just gives you, we've talked about it loads, it's a roadmap. So if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? So and it's looking at things, you can become quite stagnant. That's Letting's been going for 15 years. You can easily just sit and be stagnant with that. Then there's other businesses doing things differently around you that, they're going to be more attractive to people. So you just have to keep an eye on what's going on in your market, what others are doing, and like you're saying, what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, and where can you capitalise on that. So it's lists. I've always got a list. I've got a list every day that I work through.
The numbers are always an interesting one because a lot of guys will tell you forecasting is guesswork. Guess what? It actually isn't. Interesting thing, if you look at large organizations, likes of an Apple, they have to submit forecasts to investors, for guys and that. And they pretty much bang on. Okay, so we as a small business, we believe the fallacy that forecasting is guesswork. Guess what? It's not. There are ways and means that you can create active forecasts. And the actual trickiness is to look at your forecasting methodology, what you use to forecast, and compare it to what actually happened and fix the mistakes in between. And that then sets the tone, because the better you are with understanding that, the better your business will be. But forecasting is not so much guesswork. You need to understand it. So, sales. How many frogs do you have to kiss to make that one sale?
Mm-hmm. So that's a really good point there. So, sales, because it is the lifeblood to the business, any business. But if you were to get scored, if you were, once you've dealt with a client, if they were to score you on how you made them feel. So if you went out and priced 5 jobs, dog grooming or whatever it may be, whatever job it is, right? And you only got 2 of those clients, what was it that made the people not come to you? Is it something you did? Was it the smell of the place, how tidy it was? And was it the monetary value? You'd be amazed. But people don't search for that content. They don't ask for that information. And that's where it's key for you to be able to pivot. Would it not be better just getting all 5 of them and then deciding if one of them was an arsehole, you didn't want them anyway. So you could decide I'm not doing work for them. But that's why it's so important. Your time is so important. Your team's so important in their time. Don't waste it. And I think when the economic crisis is happening, people start laser beam focus a little bit more. That's because they're complacent. So you have to be really, really rigid, and you need to look at your sales, look at the amount of clients you're actually going to see. You should maybe ask them a lot more questions before you're wasting your time with them. Start scoring them and really looking at what a client looks like to your business. When we talked about earlier there, take the top 3 businesses, go and replicate them again. Your top clients that are coming into your shop or your store, try and find more of them and really figure out the direction of travel and the sales and what would be the best. We said it before. You go to a Michelin star restaurant, you're getting your coat hung up. You're getting escorted over to your seat, and you are, by Christ, I'm expecting that bread to be on that table at the very beginning. There's a perception of what you expect.
Yeah.
And a Michelin star restaurant. Make your business that, or try and get your business to that sort of level within its boundaries. But you have to look at all the small details, as you've said time and time again.
I suppose it becomes hard because complacency sets in. Your business is okay. And you know what? You see the telltale signs. You do start seeing them, but you don't act on them until it's too late. That's the interesting thing about it. Everybody knows it, but nobody acts upon it until it's too late.
Well, that's where, dragging it back then, there's a crash coming.
Yeah. Okay, let's call it a correction.
Correction. The budget might be what sets it off, whatever. You don't know what's going to kick it off, but it's definitely going to happen. So businesses and practical things that you can do in your business that will help you get through that. So one is building up a cash supply there. So 3, 6, 12 months of...
Yeah, so I mean, the more you have, the better.
Yeah, so what was your running cost per month, and try and get as many months of that in the bank. And I know it's not easy to do it, but...
So the trick to that is you need to split your cost between fixed and variable, because you've got... So example of fixed cost salaries. If you pay salaries, it's a fixed cost. You want to have 3 months worth of salaries in the bank. Sounds easy, a lot more difficult. Because how many guys manage their cash flow on a actual versus a forecast basis? Okay. And that is, you could forecast. So quite simply, if I have 50 clients and I expect them all to pay me £100, I know I'm getting in £5,000. Okay. But when I do the analysis, only 40 clients paid me £100. Where's the other 10? That's what I mean, the difference between an actual and a forecast, to get that right. So that's one of the things that you could do. Okay. Obviously, review your costs. Make sure that those variable costs, that you trim them down, don't have anything. But the interesting thing is marketing. Do you spend money on marketing or not?
It's a variable cost. That's the one that you can, but you should be, even when you're busy is when you should be marketing, not when you're quiet, because you're too late by that point.
Yeah, because what if the phones all of a sudden stop ringing tomorrow?
Yeah.
What do you do? And it's that marketing cost, which is variable, that you could jump on, you can run. You need to look at your people. You know what? Have I got one too many delivery driver because he makes my life easy?
You should also look at things, discounts, buying discounted, whatever it is for your shop, your business. Look at things like that. Set different payment terms, just to give you a little bit of breathing space.
Work on your costs.
Work on maybe find new suppliers.
Absolutely. Get your clients to pay a little bit upfront and the balance over time. That eases their burden. Understanding what your client, and actually understanding your client journey, how they got to you, is really, really important in times like this. But those are the strategic things that we should be doing that we don't get the time to do.
There's debt as well. If you've got debt,
that's a
risky debt, let's have a look at, what are the interest payments? Are you on a variable rate with things? Can you actually get this consolidated a bit so it's costing you less and a bit more secure?
So I think at the moment, debt is expensive wherever you go to. And people become desperate. So they would jump onto a funding circle loan. And when you need to look at the terms of your debt, because if they're personally going to guarantee it, you've got issues. So where do you find good debt? Banks are always the best, the best port of call, but banks don't borrow money anymore. Everything has become expensive. But consolidating debt, or have a debt roll-up strategy where you start paying off the most expensive debt first, and then once you've paid off that debt, because it's in your cash flow, you do the second lot of debt and you pay that up. And over time, I will say to you, it's good to have debt. Make no mistake, it's good to have debt, because how can the banks trust you if they can't if you don't have debt? But it's having the right debt at the right level with the right payment. Now, a quick way to do it is your debt should never be more than 40% of the equity in your business or what you own in your business or the assets in your business. Debt should always be less than 40%. If you go more than 40% debt, then that's what they call, you need to start watching that, because very quickly, if your debt is 50-50 in your equity, you could get yourself into a lot of problems. But nobody watches how much I'm borrowing, because when times are tough, we borrow to get through a short-term problem instead of looking what is the long-term repercussions.
I think another one is looking at maintenance packages that you could do, even loyalty offerings for people, and putting out there again. This is back to sales. But this is just one of the key aspects with an economic crisis. So just pivoting your business and changing some of the models, and it may help you.
I think streams.
Yeah,
to look
I
at
think
different streams of revenue.
Nothing should be off the table. You should really, at the time of a correction, you should question everything. Why am I doing it? Why am I doing it this way? Why? And you know, the easy answer is because we've always done it that way. Is there a different way? Absolutely. Is it harder? Absolutely. But what is the end result? Don't just change for the sake of changing. It has to have a purpose behind it.
I think, though, if the correction's happened, you're too late already.
Yeah.
You're now, your back's against the wall. I think trying to now start thinking, and it might even be too late just now, but trying to look at the business and where it's going to be, stress test it. But where can you diversify even the business? What other streams of revenue can you maybe bring in from what you're doing? Or it might be a completely something else that just works alongside what you're doing, that just brings in other money. But right now, stress testing, like have a look at your business. What happens if your customer base or your revenue's fallen by 20%?
How do you stress test a business?
Well, I think that's one. So you're looking at if, there's a downturn, people stop spending money. So at what point, if you start losing business, what point does that put you into trouble there? You've got costs rising, everything's rising at the moment. So if like all their software stuff is constantly going up and up, customer payments will start to slow. So, how long can you go without your customers paying before it starts to become a problem? Losing large clients. So one of the biggest risks we've always tried to avoid is having a major client that takes up, a chunk of what you earn every month. Because you're building your business around that. So suddenly if that gets pulled, now you're in trouble. So it's mitigating all these things, having to look at them and seeing what you can do now before something happens like a big downturn and you're left with your pants at your ankles.
Aye, and that's not always good. Sometimes it can be.
It's interesting when you say stress test the business, because very few people understand what it means to stress test a business in terms of practical execution.
So let's get it.
So when you stress test a business, is you need to understand your numbers, and then what you do is you halve your sales and you double your costs. That is ground zero. What happens then? Because if you halve your sales, that'll have an implication on how people are paying you. When you halve your sales, you also have the opportunity to increase your prices to see, can we do something different? So it's interesting when you talk about price increases. I've done this a number of times. If you had to double your prices and lose half your clients, you'd still be better off than you are at the moment.
Yep.
So, but this is, again, there's another way of looking at that. You're looking for that top 3%. The top 3% of spenders, depending on what your offering is, you go and find those top 3% high earners that want to use you. They just can't find you yet. And you make sure they find you. And again,
it's a bit of marketing spend.
Yeah.
Well, marketing should never stop. But there are a lot of marketers out there that should never be used because they're rubbish. But you need to know what works for your business. Just try and put you have all your clients already. So just look at them and go, who are they? Why do they come to me? What is it I'm creating here? And I know I say this a lot, but what value am I creating? So you already know where they should be hanging about, what age they are, if they're male or female, What can they
What are the common challenges they have? How do they think about things? Where do they shop? All of those things.
And this is where data is important, but data is not the full thing.
It's only part of the picture.
It's part of it. So your data is important. Now, with this crisis, this crash happening, hopefully you've got all the phone calls, email addresses, data there that you can then resell out to people. And I always go back to sales, even though there's a whole host of things, but sales, in my opinion, is a lifeblood to any business.
Well, there's also a downturn also has lots of opportunities.
Yes.
So if your mind's in the right place, there is opportunities out there. So one being discounted equipment and stuff, there is obviously, unfortunately, businesses that are going to get caught up in it.
Yep.
So there's opportunities.
What happens to those businesses' clients?
Exactly. There's the clients. There's also the staff.
Yeah.
You know, you might be able to get hold of some really talented staff that you couldn't maybe afford before. There's cheaper long-term advertising is another one. You know, business starts going down, so everything suddenly starts to be a bit more affordable. Mm-hmm. What else? Come on now, on the spot.
I know.
Opportunities. I mean, acquisition.
There's opportunities, acquisition, buying other businesses, but let's just imagine that there's not enough money in the pot. The realistic, like we can see these things and it's all great in theory, but
if
you've got to have
the
money.
Cash, yeah.
So let's base it on the worst case scenario. You've got fuck all in the bank, you're really struggling, your staff's doing your nothing, right? But you've got to pivot, and it's the same staff. You can't get rid of them because the redundancy costs, the NIs were up, everything. So it's a shit show. What do you do as a leader to steer that ship?
So can somebody tell me what is the characteristics of a good leader? What is the two big things that a good leader does?
That's Johnny's department.
Takes responsibility for everything.
Yeah. Also guides, you know, they're the ones steering the ship. So
guides and takes responsibility. So the interesting thing is a good leader will never take the credit when a business is doing well. He'll always give it to the other people.
Yes.
Okay? And when the business fails, the good leader takes the responsibility. He's the one that falls on the sword, not his people. And there might be circumstances that you don't know about, but a leader takes responsibility. And that's what we are lacking at the moment. And it's difficult. It's difficult to be a good leader in today's society because we all want to be popular. We all want to be liked.
See what would be a good idea? Sit with your team. Whether it's just you and somebody else or it's you've got 5 or 10 staff, sit with them. Get their opinion. Yep. Bring them in, make them feel encouraged, like they are part of the growth of this business.
Nothing galvanizes a business like a team that believes in the same thing.
Yeah. There was a guy, I don't know his name, but the context is fantastic. He had a big business and it was really going under. And because he had cleaners, he had CEOs, and he had all these different types of people, all in different wage packages, he actually went to them and says, look, what can you afford to lose off your wage every week or every month to help this business climb back up or stabilise? And when everything turns round, I'll give you all that money back, plus a little bit extra. And one person could lose a tenner, the other person was affording £50. It was amazing. It brought all the whole team together, because they were fine. They wanted to keep their job. It was a nice place to work. And that comes down to culture and whatnot. But what a fantastic way of doing it. And everything did turn. It took about 2 years, I think, the story went. But he gave that money back to them, plus a little bit else. Can you imagine just the community in that business? How they all fought for each other?
I think it goes back to having great shared values. And shared value to me isn't things like integrity and respect. A shared value is a behavior that's driven by an attitude and an outcome. That is what it. So it's a behavior driven by an attitude and an outcome. And everybody believes that. Everybody is prepared to go for war for it. Make it a little bit more relatable. Now when Mel Gibson runs up and down there, and everybody just believes it. They just believe it in Braveheart. They believe they're going to win it. Okay? That's the thing is, I mean, if you look at great comeback teams, and you look at it, everybody's got that belief. They share the same belief, the same vision. And that unfortunately takes time, and you either have it or you don't. And sometimes it just takes one rotten egg to go, this won't work. This won't work. No. And it's that negativity. You know, it's always how you view a glass, half full, half empty. Mm-hmm. How do you view the glass? And that's difficult because you're dealing with human nature. But when you have your business, one of the best things you could do is bring the team in and go, listen, we have got a problem here. Who's on the ship? Who's off the ship? And those who want to get off the ship need to get off now. They will start looking for new jobs very quickly. But that's where planning, and I don't believe in luck. Fortune favors the prepared. The more prepared you are, the more fortunate you'll be. So, when you look at a downturn like this, what do you need to do to prepare yourself now? Centers around three things: people, sales, and operations. What are you doing in those three areas to recession-proof your business? Because if you can get through this, you can recession-proof your business, you'll fly.
And that's the thing, at the other end of it, if you can get through these hard times, then you should really be in a position to flourish. And I think it's good as well, if you bring your staff in, they get invested. If they're part of the solution, they're invested in that, and you'll find that more often than not, everybody's running the same way then. So, yeah.
You learn a lot about people, your team. If there's nothing wrong with being vulnerable when you're around the right people, because they'll want to help you. They'll feel that burden for you. They'll feel that pain, and they genuinely want to help. And I think it brings a community together a lot more.
Yeah, very good. Well, with that said,
this is your world.
Shape it, or someone else will.